Kang the Conqueror has arrived in the 21st century to conquer the Earth in Kang Dynasty.
Aboard his massive ship orbiting the blue orb of Earth, Kang stares down at the planet, his son at his side as he explains the battle plan for finally conquering the world. He explains to his son, the Scarlet Centurion, what is most important about conquering a world is controlling the battlefield. If you are attacking, you must have easier access to the enemy than he has to you. In short, you must have the high ground, he declares with a smile, finally turning away from his view of Earth, ordering his son to the transport chamber. Our moment is at hand, and if the Avengers should involve themselves, they will not withstand us. Meanwhile, over at the Avengers mansion, Warbird, otherwise known as Carol Danvers, is testing her new abilities, trying to learn her limits after losing her access to the cosmic energy that gave her her powers recently. She fights against robots in the training exercise that Hank Pym has developed for her, finally absorbing enough energy to destroy them. Color me impressed, and that's probably still not your limit, Carol. Hank tells her over the comms, and she thanks him for the help and the heads up out of the chamber. When he's alone, Hank suddenly doubles over in pain. Not fair. The other one got this. Proved he was the fake. He gasps as he falls over to the ground. Meanwhile, over in Arizona, Wonder Man and Wanda Maximoff are riding horses through the desert, discussing Simon's recent return from the dead and trying to decide what comes next. He tells her that the charity foundation that he started has asked him to take a more active role, which would mean that he has to move to Los Angeles. Do you want to come with me? He asks her, and Wanda is shocked, not sure if she should move across the country. I understand. You don't have to take the offer, Simon tells her, but Wanda shakes her head, telling him that he needs to do this, and they'll figure everything else out later. Meanwhile, over in Siberia, a team of Avengers have been called in to help a team of Russian scientists and superheroes who are investigating a radiation signature. They arrive at the coordinates, but find nothing, and the comms come to life, showing the scientists trying to call for help, with explosions ripping apart behind them before the screen goes black. Captain America rushes towards the combat vehicle's ramp, ordering the rest of the team to grab their radiation suits as they prepare for a fight. We've got to get down there, fast! He shouts to the team, and suddenly the alarms begin to blare inside of the Avengers mansion, alerting the rest of the team to a disturbance at the United Nations building. Over at the UN, there's a tunnel of light, and the Scarlet Centurion makes his appearance to the world. Hear me, people of this era! I am Scarlet Centurion, and I have come to you as an envoy from one greater than you could ever dream of becoming. Make way and prepare to welcome him. The Scarlet Centurion cries, and the guards raise their weapons as the Centurion grows angry. Back off now, or you face the Avengers, Wasp shouts as the team arrives. Tony trying to reason with the villain, but the Centurion lashes out with his power staff, forcing everyone to leap out of the way. Iron Man and Warbird leaping at him, but Centurion grabs Tony by the face as he swats Warbird aside. That's when Goliath is there punching Centurion and knocking Tony clear. Vision rushes in, trying to phase through the villain's chest to stop him, but Centurion laughs as he explains that his energy field stops the Vision and shocks him away. You're good, Scarlet Centurion, but we've got your measure now, Wasp shouts as she zips in, beginning to blast him in the face. The rest of the team leaping in to help her, trying to hold the Centurion still, but he proves too strong, throwing them all away as he prepares to fire from his energy staff again. That's when Warbird flies in, hitting him with several energy blasts. You seem awfully fond of an oversized toothpick, the one that you're waving around, so let's see what happens if I absorb the power and clean it off. She shouts as she grabs his staff, the energy beginning to leach into her, but Centurion merely smiles. You are magnificent. Your defiance, your determination, your beauty. I have never seen anything like it, he says to her with Carol's eyes widening as she thinks that she recognizes the voice of Marcus, a man who was responsible for terrible things in her life not long ago. But the rest of the team is there, slamming into the Centurion, finally knocking him to the ground. And that's when a bright light fills the sky and a booming voice calls out. Cease! Kang shouts, appearing on his floating command chair. My son seems to have overstepped his bounds, Avengers. Forgive him. Kang tells them, looking around at those gathered beneath him. Nevertheless, he did come here on a peaceful mission as my emissary, and he has been treated terribly. This is unacceptable, he says to them, telling the Avengers that the rules of diplomacy means that his son has been treated discourteously. You have no idea the power that you face, Avengers, but you will. You will learn, he says as he smiles, holding up a remote. In space, his ship opens fire on the UN building, destroying it in one powerful blast. The Avengers look in shock as the building is crumbling around them, the team rushing at Kang. You monster, I swear to you, Kang! In the name of the good men and women that you just murdered! Wasp begins to state, but Kang waves her away, telling her to save her outrage. He pushes another button and the rubble begins to glow, bubbles of energy rising out of the destruction, with everyone who had been inside completely protected. I have killed no one, he tells them, standing before the Avengers, explaining that he was merely demonstrating his power and he has come to save Earth. I have seen what is in store for you, Avengers, and the world that you know is doomed. The only hope that you have, the only man who could save you all, stands before you, he tells them. Meanwhile, the rest of the Avengers have found the surviving scientists in Siberia, who informs them that their superheroes have been missing for several hours. Another explosion then rips through the distance and Captain America urges his team forward. Back over at the UN, Kang orders the Avengers to stand down. I did not come to fight, I came to talk. So turn your attention to my Omni screen as I reveal to you your future! The heroes look in shock as the view of the future appears. Tony's armor is destroyed, Spider-Man's mask torn nearby, the city is in ruins around them, and strange glowing skeletons are floating through the air. Kang warns them that the creatures will come from the east, that they are the living dead, radioactive soldiers with a poisonous touch. The world will fall quickly and all will be transformed before the creatures, becoming part of their singular mind, forming a great lattice of work that covers the earth. Humanity, at least as we know it, is dead. The images begin to shift on screen and Kang continues. It is possible that this fate can be avoided, if unlikely. But even if humanity survives the threat, will you be prepared for thoughts that lurk beyond the horizon? What have you no defense against, because you do not even know that it is there? Another image appears of an overly industrialized Earth, the skies choked with smog as powerful corporations hunt down those that challenge them. Another shift in the image, and the destruction of the moon has been caused by an environmental disaster, a global winter. The remnants of humanity are fighting a never-ending war. Another shift, an invasion from the planet Mars, with Earth's remaining heroes fighting against a giant three-legged mech that has been sent to destroy them. Ragnarok, the undead rise, driven by the god known as Chthon. A solar flare that burns up the world. A mutant rise up led by Magneto, who enslaved the world. More alien attacks, ancient gods returning from space, monsters, androids, riots, cataclysm. The images begin to shift faster and faster, showing those gathered the numerous ways the Earth will eventually fall. It could be any of these, or 1,000 more. And mark my words, men of this century, these are not projections. I am a time traveler. I have seen them all with my own eyes, he says, as he turns to them, telling them that the times ahead will be treacherous, but he can save them, guide them. Guide you from this to a glorious destiny in the stars. But a U.S. military advisor steps forward, telling Kang that they will not listen to him since he attacked them, that his offer of help will be rejected. And he holds up his phone, telling Kang that they have used this to lock onto his ship. Fire, he orders his men, and missiles launch from the Earth, clearing the atmosphere, destroying his ship in a large ball of fire. But Kang only smiles, turning back to his screen, showing them as the fire clears, showing that his ship is unharmed. You misunderstand my purpose here. This is not an offer of assistance, but a declaration of war. I intend to conquer Earth in order to save it. I will, of course, extend you the opportunity to surrender. He tells them, and he smiles as he tells them what will happen next. He tells them that he will take France and Germany first. And as America argues over whether they should aid the foreign countries, Europe will fall within 3 weeks, and the rest of the world shortly after. The heroes of Earth will go through re-education, and the rest of humanity's most able-bodied will be conscripted into Kang's army. He will build up the planet's defense, creating an army great enough to defend the planet and send it into space, conquering all of those that they come across. You will never succeed! The world will unite against you! The Secretary General shouts, and Kang looks at him in amusement. Will it, General? He asks, explaining that the world's governments will try to stop him. But he has already begun to spread his message across the planet, that he is offering the rest of the world the ability to become a star-spanning empire. Talk all you wish! The world will fight! The Secretary General shouts, but Kang merely laughs, explaining that his offer has gone out, that the forces from Atlantis have already begun to attack the coast. An army of deviants has already begun to arise. The war is well underway. My armies have yet to fire a shot, and I expect you'll become busy for some time. So I will take my leave now to make my own preparations for the coming invasion of Europe, he says as he looks around, warning the others that if he is fired upon, he will order his ship to fire again, and this time, I will not be protecting those in the blast. And with that, he and the Scarlet Centurion begin to float away, and the military has begun to surround them and order them to stand down. How good that you understand, he says with an evil smile, but before he disappears, he turns back to the Avengers, reminding them of the dangers that he warned them. Look to the east, Avengers, because it has already begun, he calls out as he goes. Over in Siberia, the Avengers are pushing forward through a strange and twisted landscape. Here, Captain America shouts as he finds a survivor, a Russian hero known as Darkstar. He has returned! Captain America, he has taken them! She gasps at him, and Cap asks who has returned. But the team is suddenly bathed in a green light as something appears before them, and they all look up in shock as the presence appears, flanked by green glowing skeletons. Yes, it is I, and I bring with me a new dawn, and the blessings of a new kind of life. Blessings I will share with the entire world. The radioactive monsters charge forward, attacking the Avengers. Strike, Avengers! Strike hard and sure! Thor bellows as he fires lightning at these monsters. We must force these unnatural creatures back, lest they overwhelm us and the world! Firestar keeps blasting away, but the monsters quickly overwhelm her. Luckily, Quicksilver is there, pulling her clear of the danger, and he looks to his friends, aware that they are having little effect on the creatures. There must be some anti-radiation foam back at the sentry stations on the borders of this hellish place. Maybe they'll have an effect. He shouts at his comrades as he races away. Meanwhile, over at Prince Edward Island, Canada, a group of Avengers are fighting against the barbarian hordes of Atlantis, who are aided by a massive monster. The others fight against the hordes while Jack of Hearts and Wanda square off against a beast. The monster lashing out, knocking Jack to the ground. Blast it! Where's Hank? We could really use the strength of Goliath right about now, Wanda shouts, and Hank suddenly comes flying in on a floating disc, now dressed as Yellow Jacket. Here I come to save the day, he sings with a big smile, hitting the beast with a bio-disruptor blast, but it has no effect, and the monster smacks him out of the sky. As the battle rages on, the Atlantean usurper known as Eterna watches from a distance, standing next to his mage who controls the monster Torg with a magical orb. Meanwhile, over in China, She-Hulk, Black Widow, Warbird, Silverclaw, and Vision fight against the Deviant armies. Aiding the Chinese army, it doesn't take long before the Deviants are beaten and they flee back to their underground layers. Back over in Siberia, the team is now armed with anti-radiation foam guns. They seem to be holding off the radiation monsters. Fight carefully, don't waste the foam. It's the only weapon that we have, Captain America shouts to his team, but the guns suddenly explode, now useless. The green light appearing again. You still live, Avengers? The presence asks them, floating before them, flanked by Starlight, his wife. When I left, I thought my followers would have disposed of you far sooner than this, he says, and Captain America steps forward. We want to talk, Presence. If you've mutilated these people unwillingly, you've got hostile intentions. He begins, but the Presence merely waves his hand, and a blast of energy rips through the Avengers. Back over in Canada, Triathlon figured out where Ormunda and his mage are at. He leaps across the water, grabbing a hold of the orb that controls the monster known as Torg. Mind if I borrow this? Thanks, he jokes as he flips away, the monster suddenly becoming docile again. What is this? What is Torg doing? The monster growls, and Jack of Hearts flies forward. I'll tell you, what you're doing now is taking a nice refreshing dip, he shouts as he punches the monster across the face, knocking him into the water. The battle quickly ends, with the Avengers convening inside of a military tent, trying to figure out their next move. Janet asks why Hank would appear in his Yellow Jacket costume. I just felt like it, and things worked out, he tells her with a smile. But suddenly he clutches his stomach, moving towards the entrance to the tent. The wars across the Earth continue, with Kang and his son watching from their ship in orbit. The Avengers have changed. They are more suited for a global crisis, Kang notes. Still, they have much to cope with, he says with a wave of his hand, as his screens now show him the various battlefields throughout the world, with Scarlet Centurion questioning his father about his tactics, wondering why they don't just attack with their armies. questioning whether their tactics are honorable. Honorable? Make no mistake, Marcus. Honor is a man's greatest possession, but honor is personal. War is fought through the surrogates. Otherwise, it is merely a duel. Kang teaches him, explaining to his son that if they attack with their armies, then the Earth would unite against them. But to allow them to fight among themselves and weaken themselves is the overall goal. Meanwhile, over in China, the ground begins to quake beneath the team of heroes again. And with it giving out beneath them, it causes them to tumble into a vast cavern. And Carol raises her hand, creating an energy glow that illuminates the armies of the deviants around them. Yes, humans. You are in my domain now, so let us see how well you fare against us this time, their leader says with a smile. Back over in Canada, Janet is called into the tent by the soldiers, and they found Hank passed out on the ground. Janet grabs him, staring in shock as his hand begins to fade from existence. Back over in Siberia, Firestar begins to awaken, surprised to find nobody nearby. I'm alive? But what I felt, the radiation on that level, it should have been more than enough to, she begins to say to herself, but the smoke begins to clear, revealing Thor nearby. Good, the madman's lightning could not affect me. The others must be around here as well. Thor says as Firestar runs to him, but out of the smoke comes a glowing hand. And the radiation creature that was once Captain America grabs a hold of Thor, lifting him into the air. No, it cannot be, Thor shouts. Aboard his ship, Kang continues to watch, bursting out laughing at his conquest. I must admit, there is such a joy in a campaign so successful. Beneath the earth, Carol steps forward, pointing at the hordes of deviants. Who leads this rabble? I name you a coward, hiding behind weapons and bodyguards. Coward and worse. I name you unfit to lead, she shouts. She-Hulk looks at her in shock. What are you doing? She whispers, and Carol shakes her head and glances at her. Shh, she hisses, pointing her finger, challenging the leader to single combat for the right to lead. I am Depis. A woman cannot challenge for leadership, nor a human. He laughs at her, but she calls him a coward, causing the other deviants to look at him in doubt. And Depis finally nods. Very well. You shall battle my designated champion as my right as leader. And when you fall, you shall become my body slave. Bringing cheers from his army, and the deviants part, revealing a large slug-like creature. Oh great, what is he, 9 feet tall? This may not be as easy as I'd hoped for, Carol whispers to herself. Meanwhile, back in Siberia, Thor and Firebird continue to fight, blasting the radiation monsters that were once their friends. Thor grabs the former Black Knight, throwing him into the ground, but Quicksilver is suddenly there, rapidly punching him across the face and staggering the god. Zounds! Quicksilver's strength has been greatly magnified, and his touch burns! Thor says as he wipes the blood from his mouth and begins to whirl his hammer, creating a wind blast that tosses the monsters away. He then turns as Captain America leaps at him, but Thor reaches out, grabbing a hold of his shield. Fight this, Captain! Assert thine indomitable will, and break free of this unseemingly thraldom! Firebird turns to him as she continues to blast away. You have to forget Cap, Thor! That's his body, but his mind is still dead! She shouts, but the anger begins to boil up in Thor as he raises his hammer up over his head, lightning cracking through the skies. Blow winds, roll clouds, storms of the earth and sky! Thor, god of thunder, commands thee! He says as he takes his hammer in both hands. This man, this hero, he should not have died like this, and by my hammer he shall be avenged! But back aboard his ship, Kang continues to watch all of the conflicts below. And on it goes, the old dance. With a few words, they rise at each other's throats. He says with a smile, and he turns as Scarlet Centurion enters the room, telling him that the first recruits from Earth have arrived to swear allegiance to him. Kang nods as he floats out into the room. Looking around those that have gathered, he points to one, demanding to know why he should be qualified to join Kang's army. The man seems confused, but quickly begins to list off his qualifications. But the man is interrupted as a whirlwind enters the room, casting the others away with gusts of wind. He laughs at Kang, telling him about his power and demanding that he be made general. Well then, I have your first assignment, General, Kang says as he pushes a button on his floating chair, and with a blast of energy, Whirlwind suddenly disappears. Kang already has power, the Conqueror says to those that have gathered around him. What I seek is obedience, ability, and discipline. I will not tolerate anything less, he shouts. But back down on Earth, Carol hits the Deviant known as Gloom with an energy blast, but the blast merely goes through his gooey body. The Deviant laughs, reaching out, grabbing her, pulling her close as she begins to get sucked into his body. Now you will feel the embrace of Gloom, he bellows. And over in Siberia, Thor and Firebird continue forward as Thor's storms are creating a path through the green monsters, finally having them land in front of Presence and Starlight. "Strike, storm clouds, let these foul beings feel thy wrath, for Thor would speak to the master undisturbed," he bellows into the wind. The Presence doesn't seem overly impressed with him. "Ah, Thor, you have great power, pretender to godhood, but I am the Presence. I am power personified. If you cannot be transformed, you will be slain," he says, shooting a blast of energy at the god. But Thor holds up his mighty hammer, blocking the blow and beginning to absorb the energy. "I think not, Presence. I am Thor, and thou shalt judge for thyself whether I am pretending," he shouts, stepping forward, beginning to absorb the energy from the Presence body. "Thou hast used thy power badly, and thou shalt use it no more," Thor says, and the Presence begins to wither before their eyes. But back down beneath the earth, Carol has been sucked inside a Gloom's body. Inside, she sees nothing but darkness, but she can sense something. She reaches her hand out, finding a shard of a crystal within the Deviant that acts as its only organ. The crystal shatters in her hand and Gloom falls to the ground, releasing her from his grasp. Carol quickly catches her breath, struggling to her feet. "So your deviantness, what's it gonna be? Surrender or a complete betrayal of what passes for your code of honor in front of your men?" She finally acts dual-plus. But back over in Siberia, Thor continues to absorb the energy, with the Presence falling to the ground. But Starlight calls out, asking him to stop. "Please, don't kill him. I share his power. Perhaps I can drain it from your comrades. Restore them," she says. And Thor agrees, stopping his assault, but he questions why she would save the monster. "Just as I share his power, I share his curse. Our lethal power prevents us from associating long with others. Without him, I would be alone," she says as she cradles the Presence. Thor looks at them. "Perhaps, woman, thou wouldst be better off that way." Time passes, and Thor and Firebird stand by while scientists continue to work on their friends, making sure that they're okay after being returned to normal. And beneath the earth, Carol now sits on her new throne, watching as the Deviants follow her orders and disarm themselves. They all check in with Janet Van Dyne, who puts in a word with the US government, telling them the Avengers are ready to fight back against Kang. Secretary General thanks her, hanging up the line, turning to his co-worker as they both walk out of the room. "They'll be here, and I hope that they come up with a way to end Kang's threat swiftly and cleanly, because I don't mind saying, I don't like the backup plan," he says as they walk into the next room, staring up at rows of Sentinels being prepared. His army cheers his name as Kang raises a glass to them. Marcus standing nearby and Kang turning to him. "One day, they will roar for you, my son," he says, gesturing to those below them. "You, Marcus, have proven yourself an able warrior, a fine commander, and have earned the respect and devotion of the men as my chief lieutenant. You have done well. It is good to have a family, a crown prince," Kang tells him, and Marcus looks at his father. "And my mother, noble sire, does that make her the empress?" he asks, but Kang turns away, waving off his son's questions, reminding him that his mother was chosen from the finest breeding stock within the empire. But it was Kang who brought his son into the past, onto the secluded world to be trained. He puts his hands on his son's shoulder. "Do not think too much of women, my son. They are a distraction and a weakness. Good to serve as soldiers or mothers, but little more. Always remember, the genes that formed you only gave you potential. It is what a man accomplishes that sets him apart. Your mother is your past, Marcus, and the past is over. It is the future that should concern you," he says as he looks at the screens of Earth, ordering his son to depart and prepare the invasion force. On Earth, Captain America, the Wasp, Firebird, and Thor are meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Captain America informs them that even though the team has taken a beating recently, they will be prepared to assault Kang's fortress. The general nods, informing them that the Allied forces have begun preparing their defenses in France, where Kang said that he would first attack. But without knowing the nature of the attack, they can't prepare properly. The fact that half of the world is in an uprising and a rioting in the name of Kang isn't helping the situation, and having the world governments fight against their own when they should be preparing. The talks continue, but Thor is the one who finally stands up, excusing himself from the discussion and walking out of the room, with Firebird rushing after him. Meanwhile, over at Avengers Mansion, Jack of Hearts steps out of the machine that is nullifying his powers, allowing him to act as a human for a short period of time while on Earth. Triathlon greets him at the room door, asking if he's ready to head out for the evening, reminding him of the lovely girls that they will be meeting with. But before they can head out into the town, they're stopped by Warbird and Vision, the pair explaining that they are concerned by the Triune Understanding, a religious group that has supposedly built a spacecraft that is powered psionically through prayer. Justice and Firestar are already undercover in the group, but Warbird believes that they need more experience. Wait, hold the phone. I know you think the TU is some sort of cult, but remember, I'm a member. I believe in its principles, and I don't think that this is right, Triathlon says as he jumps up. But Warbird explains to him that she doesn't think that they are evil, but that they seem to be suspicious, and that she'd rather be safe than sorry. I'm saying, let's find the truth, whatever it is, Triathlon, she tells him. Meanwhile, over in Washington, Thor stands upon a rooftop, overlooking the city as the sun is setting. Firebird appears behind him, asking what is wrong, and Thor turns to her, explaining that he believed that he could act as a hero and not get attached to the humans who live in the blink of an eye compared to his immortality. But after what happened with the presence, he feels that he is becoming too attached to those that he calls his friends. But Firebird shakes her head, that she doesn't think that this is actually a bad thing. You cannot understand, Thor tells her, and she looks at him as they both begin to watch the sunset. Maybe not, but I'd like to show you that you're wrong. Can I have until we defeat Kang to change your mind? She asks Thor. Back at the Avengers mansion, Vision finally informs them that he believes that he is best suited to infiltrate the church, using his newfound emotions to tell them that he seeks guidance. And with the argument settled, the rest of the heroes head out for the night, with Carol and Vision deciding to join them. Meanwhile, Cap and Wasp are still in their meeting, with the general finally informing them that if the Avengers can't defeat Kang, the military will go with their second option. And he taps a button, and the screen shows the rows of Sentinels that are still being worked on. You can't be serious, General, Wasp asks as Cap struggles out of his chair, still wounded from the fight with the Presence, and he reminds them that the last time that the Sentinels were activated, they turned against their creators. The first flight of the Sentinels will be ready in 96 hours, the General tells them, and a look of determination settles on Cap's face. 96 hours. If that's all you're gonna give us, General, we'll take it. We'll find a way to take Kang down. The room suddenly begins to rumble, and all around Washington, D.C., an earthquake rips through the city. Outside, vast walls rip from the ground as strange alien defenses encircle it. An aide rushes into the meeting, warning the general about the walls and how it's happening to all of the major cities throughout the U.S. Could this be Kang? Janet asks, turning to Cap, but the screens in the meeting room flicker and a new image appears. A man sitting on a throne flanked by strange creatures not seen on this earth. Hardly, my dear. The man laughs, able to hear Janet's words. It is I who fortified the cities of North America, and I who will repel Kang from our fair planet. I am, of course, the master of the world, and all who live on it are my subjects, and thus under my protection now and forevermore, he declares with a smile. The war has begun, drop pods descending from the orbit, unleashing Kang's forces upon the world. The defenses of France have met the assault, aided by their allies and the mighty forces of the Avengers. Meanwhile, over in Washington, Black Knight and Carol are changing the perimeter of the new walls that surround the city, trying to gain some understanding on how they work. But as a drop pod descends from the space, one of the towers opens to reveal a heavy cannon, which blasts the pod out of the sky. Warbird, aka Carol, gets on the comms to Janet at the Avengers mansion, informing her that the Master's weapons are impressive and able to stop Kang. But what's he after? And why the story about protection? And why so many cities? Janet wonders, and she sighs as Jarvis walks in, pointing out that perhaps it was merely a stroke of luck. But Janet shakes her head, informing him that the mayors of all of the major cities have been kidnapped. Some sort of creature has arrived from a tube in the ground, putting a mask on the mayor's face and disappearing back into the tunnel. Luckily, Stingray was in Boston when that mayor was attacked and followed the creature into the tunnel. It led them out to the sea, where the creature took off at an amazing rate. Time passes, and a Quinjet arrives in Washington, picking up Carol mid-flight. She drops on board, greeting Quicksilver, Silverclaw, and Yellowjacket, and the screen flickers with Janet appearing before her team. She explains to them that they are being sent to Stingray's recon signal to look into the Master further. This is an espionage mission, Carol. You've got the experience, so you're in charge. Black Knight traced the control signal to the ring walls north. Matching Stingray's locator signal, we need you to infiltrate the Master's base and either convince him to put his armaments at our service or take control of them, she tells them. Carol nods in her agreement and begins the mission. turning to another screen where Captain America is informing her that his team is almost ready and is prepared to begin their assault on Kang's orbital base. Meanwhile, Vision and Triathlon have arrived at the Understanding's compound, where the head priest is giving them a tour and discussing Vision's issues. But the tour is suddenly interrupted as one of the acolytes runs forward. Lord Tremont! The great threat, the triple evil, it's coming! Sensitives have registered their arrival in the solar system and it will reach Earth within days! He shouts. But over at the Master's base of operations, Stingray has followed one of the Master's creatures through their tunnels, arriving in the Master's audience chamber. He slips inside, patching his comms through to Janet. Good, Stingray. Don't approach him. There's backup on the way. In the meantime, scout the area and find out as much as you can, Janet tells him, and Stingray looks out at the audience chamber where the Master has encased the mares that he has captured. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In the interest of repelling Kang, I have instructions for you. He begins, and he explains to them that he has decided to ignore the federal governments, since they've become quite useless, and instead will be focusing on the local governments. He informs them that he has secretly been running the world for some time, but he has had to make himself known so that he could defend the United States from Kang's attack. He will allow him to cause destruction across the rest of the world, culling humanity to a more reasonable number. The result will be a better world. A scarred world, perhaps, needing centuries to recover. But what of it? I am immortal. I have time. He tells them, and the officials begin to shout at him, calling him insane. But the Master waves this off, telling them that they will be fitted for his control technology, and returned to your offices with instructions and enough control discs to recruit others into my new world order. And rather than keep you in suspense, I inform you now. The process is quite painful. Aboard Kang's ship, though, the Scarlet Centurion sits before his console, watching the war raging far beneath him, with the data informing him that everything is going according to plan. He shifts his gaze, and the screens are instead filled with images of Warbird and her various fights across the planet. The door behind him slides open, and Marcus hits a button, allowing the screens to go blank. Good day, my son. I saw your combat exercise tapes this morning. Fine work, Kang says as he fits his helmet over his head. And Marcus nods as he stands, informing his father of their success. But Kang waves him off. Pressing a button, and images of Warbird fill their screens again. I think I know what you are truly itchy for, eh? He says with a smile. Do not waste your time with thoughts of women now, son. Time to have any woman that you choose after the victory is won, eh? He says, and Marcus just tells his father yes. Meanwhile, Carol, aka Warbird, has led her team into the Master's base, slipping quietly through the vast corridors. But they stop short as the screens descend from the ceiling, revealing the Master's laughing face. Did you really think that you could hide from me, Avengers, in my own base? An extension of my very self? He asks, roaring suddenly coming from the hallways, and the Avengers look up to see the Master's alien wolves rushing towards them. The Avengers quickly leap into battle, with Carol hitting them with energy blasts, while Quicksilver darts among them, Silverclaw transforming into a massive bear-like creature to attack them, and Yellowjacket leaping in and punching them in the face. Whoa, mama, what big teeth you have, he jokes as he shrinks down to avoid their bites. But Carol realizes that the Avengers can't defeat these creatures. She orders her teammates to keep moving, and that she'll hold the monsters back. Okay, just don't get eaten. Janet has been so ticked with us. Hank shouts at her as he leads the others away, and Warbird turns back to the rampaging monsters, energy crackling in their hands. All right, creatures, you want past me? You're gonna have to make it through a few tons of scrap metal first, she shouts as she fires a blast at the ceiling, bringing down the corridors around her. She breathes easy for a moment, but the Master's laughing face appears behind her. Very resourceful, Warbird. You have stymied my Plodex wolves. But my base is vast, woman. Do you think that the small part that you all occupy now can't be sacrificed in a moment's notice? He asks, and Carol's eyes go wide at the words, and the base explodes around her. At the military base over in Washington, Cap and the others are ready, with Photon returning from orbit, where she's been testing the Damocles shields. I couldn't analyze the force field, it's just too far beyond anything that I can visualize. I did, however, manage to absorb a bit of it, she says, putting what she absorbs into a container for Tony to analyze. Cap nods, but motions for his team to board their spacecraft. We can't do that, Tony. Our time's running short. Everyone aboard the ship. You'll have to send us the test results when we reach orbit, Cap tells his friend. As everyone gets on the spaceship, an image of Kang appears before them. This is an automatic notice. My base's exterior shields have been tampered with, and I have traced the culprit to this location. Repercussions will be swift and thorough, Kang says before disappearing. The heroes have no choice. They board their ship and they blast into orbit. Cap, what he said, I don't think he's bluffing. Jack of Hearts reminds the team leader, and Cap nods. I know, but the world's counting on us. We have no choice, so we fight and we win. There's no other options. But back over with Carol, she finally opens up her eyes, snow and wind whirling around her, and she looks up, seeing a pack of Plodex wolves closing in on her. One reaches down to sniff her, and she springs to her feet, using her energy to lash out at them and knock them away. But her blasts aren't powerful enough, and she realizes that her body was using her energy stores to keep her alive in extreme cold. She stumbles away, managing to leap into the air and fly into a nearby cave, where the creatures can't find her. A bright light appears behind her, and Carol turns to see the Scarlet Centurion floating on an aeroskiff. Are you okay, milady Warbird? He asks. She whirls on the man, remembering everything that happened to her at the hands of Marcus. The things that he put her through. They were terrible. They were ungodly. And she lashes out with her energy, destroying his flying disc. You won't find me easy prey this time, monster! I know who you are and what you are, and by Hala, you won't get away with this. She screams, but Marcus has no time to reply as she hammers him with blows, knocking him away. And he whirls his energy staff into the ground, knocking them apart. Peace! I did not come here to attack! Carol begins to breathe heavily, and Marcus looks at her, commending her for the swift attack. Not only did you destroy my aeroskiff, but my armor's communications as well. It'll be some time before my armor can self-repair enough for me to contact the ship and arrange for retrieval. But Carol is still prepared to fight, demanding to know why Marcus came here. We're enemies, she reminds him, and he nods, removing his helmet, informing her that he finds her most alluring. I have been hopelessly enchanted with you ever since I first laid eyes on you at the United Nations Plaza, he explains. And I came here to offer my assistance. He offers her his energy staff, allowing her to drain the energy from it and replenish herself. But Carol refuses, believing that it might give him mind control abilities like the past Marcus had with her. I do not understand, Marcus says, clearly confused. He lights a fire between them, trying to explain to Carol that he means no harm. And some time passes as they sit by the fire in silence until finally Marcus speaks. I have accessed my father's intelligence files on you, milady, and I believe I know that Marcus of which you speak. I am not that person. I have an actual mother and a different upbringing. I know what happened to you, but I live my life by a code of honor that was taught to me by my father. I'm not sure Kang is the noble warrior that you think he is, and I can't take the risk that you're lying. Marcus agrees, but still promises to aid her, leading her deeper into the cave where they discover part of the Master's base is protruding out of the ground. Marcus aims his energy staff at the ground, breaking through the ice and snow to reveal a hatch inward. With that, the two of them drop inside, discovering that they are in some sort of lab, with strange creatures floating inside stasis chambers. Halt where you are, intruders! The guards suddenly shout, aiming their energy weapons at the pair, and Marcus turns, pushing his staff towards Carol, telling her to power up for the fight, but she still refuses. Blast it! If you won't protect yourself, I will! Marcus shouts, turning back to the guards, using his staff and armor to block the plasma bolts from their weapons. Carol has no choice, leaping over the wounded man's head, lashing out at the guards, dropping them with several punches and kicks. She then grabs one of their weapons, cracking it and charging herself up slightly. And with the fight won, she rushes to the fallen Centurion. Are you all right? She asks, and he nods, telling her that he will heal. But truly, even without power, you are majestic. He coughs. But a blast suddenly rips past them as one of the fallen guards gets a shot off. The wall shatters, revealing a sucking wind that pulls everything into the room, and the Centurion is about to fall into the prison, but he jams his staff into the destroyed wall, stopping himself. Looking down, he sees some sort of creature, a mass of tentacles and eyes, gaping mouths full of sharp teeth. And Carol suddenly lets go, flipping through the air, grabbing the Centurion's staff, making sure that he doesn't fall into the monster's hungry jaws. She manages to pull him free, and Marcus uses his weapon to seal up the crack in the prison. There was something like that in the Alpha Flight report. It's supposed to be dead, but I'm betting that it's a genetic pappy of all of the Master's Plodec pets. Carol gasps in shock. and Marcus turns to her, thanking her for her help. He holds up his weapon and reminds her that she touched it and he didn't attack. He didn't try to take control of her mind, but Carol turns away. I don't know. How could I? How could I know for sure what I feel is what I feel? How could I ever? She says quietly, but the conversation is interrupted by Carol's comms, and an image appears of her teammates, and she smiles. Warbird, good to see your face. We're safe, at least for the moment. We managed to hook back up some of the damaged sectors, and we're ready to tackle the bad guys. You in? Hank asks her. She nods and sends her coordinates to him, then punches a wall, grabbing a power line and juicing herself up. Marcus is finally able to call for transport as he boards another aeroskiff, and he turns back to her, promising that if there is a way that he can help without betraying his father, she merely has to ask. She watches him as he flies away. Meanwhile, in the vastness of space, aboard the Avengers Deep Space Monitoring Station, Quasar and Living Lightning look up as the alarms begin to sound, and the screens show a large pyramid-like structure entering the galaxy. Quasar taps some buttons on his console, sending word of the incoming object to the Avengers back to Earth. But the message doesn't come through, and the screen flashes that a priority Avengers mission is currently underway. Quasar and the Living Lightning have no choice. They fly outside of their station, trying to follow behind the floating pyramid, but to their astonishment, it begins to pick up speed. Meanwhile, over in Earth's orbit, Captain America's team has now begun their assault on Kang's ship, firing energy blasts out of their hands while Cap provides strafing runs in the spacecraft. But the blast seems to have little effect. Inside of the spaceship, Wanda turns back to Cap, letting him know that she can't drop the shields with her chaos magic. Since she can't seem to grasp its frequency, Cap banks the ship again. Keep at it, Wanda. We can't let up for a second. If we fail to break through, he tells her. Don't even say that, Cap! We'll do it, we have to, she shouts back at him. Meanwhile, Carol and her team are sneaking to the vents of the Master's base, with Quicksilver questioning how they haven't been found yet. And what they are unaware of is the Scarlet Centurion has been using Kang's technology to mask their biosignatures. The war continues on the ground, with Thor and Firebird continuing to fight alongside the armies of Earth in their battle against Kang's forces. At the Understanding's compound, the religious leaders are preparing to take off in their spacecraft, with Vision and Triathlon trying to stop them. If it draws too much power, if it works at all, it could hurt all of your followers. Vision tried to explain to Mr. Tremont, but the man holds out his hands, explaining to them that if the Tri-Evil is not stopped, it will destroy all life on Earth. We have hidden nothing, Triathlon. We even knew the Avengers had sent spies to infiltrate our ranks. It did nothing to prevent it, preferring that you discover that there is nothing to fear. He says, motioning to Just and Firestar and the group of acolytes. He motions to the ship, asking the heroes to join them in their mission. The ship begins to take off as the acolytes on the ground pray, and as it rises higher and higher, they begin to scream in pain, clutching their heads as they fall to the ground. Triathlon tries to tell Tremont to head back down to help the people. Calm yourself, Triathlon. Our medical staff is doing what it can. The acolytes have done what is necessary, he says before turning back to the pilot. Stay on course, Vasquez. Many have given much of themselves to see us this far. To honor them, we must not stop now. But back in space, while this religious group is trying to control the Earth, the Avengers are trying to stop Kang, with the Centurion allowing the ship's automated defenses to protect the ship while he continues to monitor Carol and her team in their assault against the Master. How goes it, Marcus? Kang asks as he enters the room, with Marcus quickly shutting off the device that is monitoring Carol Danvers. The battle goes well, Father. The attackers are hopeless. Nothing the automated defense modules can't handle. But Kang looks at the screens and he comments that his son should have been paying closer attention. Because versatile as they are, automatic defense modules cannot anticipate everything, and it looks as if the Avengers have just broken through our shields. Not the desired result, wouldn't you say? Kang comments and Marcus tries to apologize, but Kang waves his hand. Do not concern yourself overmuch, after all. It is a minor lapse and easily fixed, he says as he presses a button, and an energy beam shoots out of their base, grabbing a hold of the Avengers spacecraft and their flyers. Far down below at the world's leaders, the general is apologizing to Janet for what he must do, and he orders the launch of the Sentinels into space. Lifting off, 75 of the large robots begin to hurtle themselves towards Kang's station. Meanwhile, Carol and her team have finally reached the Master's throne room, and he laughs as the heroes break off, fighting against his Plodex wolves as Carol leaps to meet him in one-on-one combat. His sword swings back and forth, slashing into Carol's skin as she attempts to block it. But back over in space, Kang appears before the captured Avengers, his smiling face mocking them. Good afternoon, Avengers. My sensors inform me that there is a flight of Sentinels on the way. I wouldn't have thought you so foolish. He reminds them that he is a time traveler and that he has lived throughout many ages. And I have quite an influence over dawning industries, specifically the robotics industry. Down below them, Carol takes another blow from the Master's sword. You are bound by the Avengers' policy against lethal force, and I am not. I feel I should offer you a chance to surrender honorably. He says with another laugh, but Carol suddenly stands, blasting a portion of the floor away. Yeah, that's where you're wrong. You're expecting us to act like nice superheroes, but the world's at war, and that means the rules have changed. She takes a piece of shrapnel and stabs it through the Master's stomach. Everyone turns in shock at what she's done as the Master tumbles to the floor. But back out in space, Kang raises his hand and the Sentinels stop their oncoming assault, awaiting for his word of command. I really would not have thought this of you, Avengers, Kang says again. The image leans over the Avengers ship, still trapped in a beam of energy. I must remind you, I did say that if I or my forces were engaged other than on the field of battle, there would be retribution! And I am a man of my word. You have attacked my command center, thus I will obliterate yours. With that, the image of Kang turns and begins to stride towards the Earth, the army of Sentinels following him. As an afterthought, he turns back, firing a beam of energy at the Avengers, destroying their ship. And as he turns to continue his assault on Earth, the bodies of the Avengers float helplessly throughout space. Back over at the Avengers mansion, Janet Van Dyne looks at her control console and realizes that few of the Avengers are left and something large is incoming. She puts out a call to Thor and Firebird, and the two heroes step through a portal prepared to fight, hoping that they will be enough. They won't be. The hollow construct of Kang strides towards the Earth, appearing over DC with his army of controlled Sentinels behind him. The military launches their counterattack, but the Sentinels blast them out of the sky, and then they turn their weapons on the Master's shield that has been placed over the city, with the defense laser striking some of them. But Kang merely points. The first blast from the ship cuts through the shield. The second turns the city into a crater. Thor and Firebird and Wasp have arrived, launching their attack against the Sentinels. And the president is taken from the White House as the people try to flee the city, the battle raging far over their heads. But they can't get past the Master's walls, trapped as destruction is raining down upon them. Wonder Man then arrives, cutting a path through the Sentinels. Kang raises his hands over his head, shooting a powerful beam into the city that crumbles the buildings around it. Thor attempts to stop him, but merely passes through the hard light construct. Wasp whispers in his ear, asking him to leave the battle, and he nods, flying down to the president and opening up a portal with Mjolnir, allowing the president to escape to safety. He looks at his friends, ordering Wasp and Firebird to also escape. And now alone, Thor and Wonder Man continue their assault, but something new drops towards the planet. A ball of green energy that cracks into the city. And in a blink of an eye, every person within its radius is killed. Skin melted from their bones. Thor and Wonder Man struggle to their feet, shocked by the death around them. And Thor stumbles out onto the city streets, falling to his knees as the dark rain has now begun to fall on them, screaming in rage that is echoing throughout this dead city. It's the next day that Kang smiles as he stands on his floating platform over the city that used to be DC. The leaders of the free world stand before him, prepared to sign their surrender, but he waves them away, motioning for Wasp, the leader of the Avengers, to be the first to give in to his demands. But out in space, the pyramid is still moving forward. You see, it was long in the past that the gods sealed away the darkness of their universe, but something managed to slip away. A pyramid, which managed to break forth into our universe, to travel the stars. Captain America and the other Avengers are regaining consciousness inside of Quasar's energy bubble, and the hero explains that he and Living Lightning managed to save them before their air gave out, though Kang's drones managed to grab Wanda before they could arrive. Cap nods as he gets to his feet. Kang, He was going to attack Earth with a flight of Sentinels. We've got to! But Quasar stops him. There's another situation, Cap. It might take precedence. When the darkness arrived in our universe, the universe reacted, creating 3 fragments of light to fight against the sliver of darkness. These fragments were found in time by living creatures, who took it upon themselves. Cap wasn't so sure that they shouldn't return to Earth, but Quasar convinces him that this threat, the pyramid, is bigger. The discussion is cut short as they look up at an approaching ship. The ship of the Understanding. Greetings, Avengers! This is Jonathan Tremont of the Triune Understanding. We have several of your comrades aboard and will be pleased if you would join us, Tremont says to them over the comms. The Avengers board the ship with Cap greeting the others that were saved from Earth. He turns to Vision, asking the android to quickly explain the situation. It is Tremont who speaks as he points to the pyramid as it approaches. In brief, Captain, I believe I can accomplish that in a word, as we are coming up on our destination now. The threat we speak of is there, and Cap's eyes widen. Perhaps I do need to know more about this. The other Avengers fill Cap in on everything that happened with the Triune of Understanding, how they sent spies inside of the religion and everything that happened on the spaceship. Cap isn't happy about the secrets, apologizing to Tremont, though he expresses his distrust of the man's religion and what he has done to his followers. But in the meantime, we're here. The hand's been dealt, so let's play it out, he says. Tremont nods. Turning back to his followers that control the ship, he explains to the heroes that the pyramid pulses with pure evil, and that it may be the greatest danger that the Earth has ever faced. It is the triple evil, Avengers. Its coming has been foretold and it must be stopped. That is the reason the Triune Understanding was created, he explains, and the team of heroes float over the pyramid using Quasar's powers. Then they approach it, and Living Lightning holds out his hands. That's funny. I thought this was machinery, but it looks more organic, like a hide or a scab. In a flash of light, the team disappears. In the past, a hero known as the 3D Man was created when he came in contact with an alien spacecraft, one that was powered by one of the fragments of life. His soul was trapped inside his brother, who was able to call him forth to fight against the forces of evil. But time went on and the brother felt like something was pulling him. He left his wife, traveling into the mountains, and there he found another of the fragments of light that had been created. And he was beaten by his guide, who claimed the fragment for himself. And now we go back to the current day. We are inside of the pyramid and the heroes are trapped by strange aliens. Their minds are asleep and they are living perfect lives, the ones that they had wished for in the pyramid. Cap sees himself returning from war, living out his life as he had hoped. But he fights it, his sense of duty pushing through. Kang! He's threatening the Earth! I don't have time! Struggling through gritted teeth, he breaks free of the control, dropping to the floor, seeing his friends being freed by him breaking the machine. We don't have time for this! He shouts, but one of the aliens that had them steps forward. Please, Blue Man, there's no need for harshness. We are only to aid you seeking. Cap glares at them. All we need is a way out of here, so we can go back to Earth where we're needed. He snaps, and the alien puts out its hands, trying to calm Captain America. Come on, Avengers, we'll find the exit ourselves, Cap says as he turns away. Tremont begins to argue, telling Cap that they need to stay. But behind Cap, the aliens begin to morph and shift, becoming the creatures of darkness with large claws. Blue Man, I am so sorry, but we cannot allow you to depart. They snarl, and the entire space around them shifts, Vision looking around as reality is setting in. The entire chamber that we are in, the aliens themselves are more illusions, he shouts at the team, and the heroes look up in shock as the aliens are swarming around them. I think we found Tremont's triple evil. But before the aliens could attack them, the Avengers feel a strange presence in their minds. They see images of the pyramid traveling through the universe, radiating pure evil and corrupting all that it comes across. The aliens were corrupted, becoming soldiers and minions of the great evil. The Avengers saw all of this in a blink of an eye, and so they fought. Fight bravely, Avengers! Remember that we fight not merely to save a city, but all of human civilization! Tremont shouts as he hits the swarms with a blast from his holy power. The rest of the Avengers leap into battle, trying to hold the swarms of corrupted aliens back. But as they continue to fight, they realize that their attacks seem to be growing weaker, and that the aliens are absorbing their energy. Keep moving, everyone! Swap opponents! Strike and move on! Don't fight the same creature twice! Don't give them a chance to adapt to your skills! Cap shouts at them as they leap over the heads of more aliens. Tremont continuing his attack, but the walls suddenly come alive, reaching for him, pinning him in place. But he's not done yet, calling forth his true powers, the souls of his brothers that were trapped in him long ago. Brothers, I need thy strength, thy power. I call you, brothers, come to me. He shouts as his body glows and his brothers who died long ago arrive. He uses the fragment of light that he had stolen from the American in the mountains, the one who controlled the spirit of 3D Man, who had used the fragment to call forth the spirit of his brothers, to use them to gain power, to prepare for the coming evil. And now the spirits of his brothers are fighting against the alien threat. Fear not, Avenger! Lord Templar will not permit you to come to harm. One of them shouts as he hits the swarm with an energy blast, and the fighting continues with Triathlon looking up, strange memories filling his mind as he looks at Tremont. You hurt me in the mountains from behind, he whispers, and Tremont looks at him in shock. You remember? You remember what the American experienced? He gasps. You see, in the past, Tremont had gathered followers, seeing images of the other fragments, of the champions that had risen, powered by another fragment, attacking the Great Pyramid, only to fail and become corrupted by it. But Tremont had continued to gather followers to himself. He also had the body of the American that he killed and leached the energy of the fragment out of the body, putting it into a suit that he gave to one of his new acolytes, Delroy, the man who became a triathlon. But it seems as if the two brothers' consciousness was also leached into the suit, and now Delroy remembers what Tremont had done. All you wanted was power! Triathlon shouts as he knocks aside another alien. Tremont begins to float into the air, proclaiming that everything he has done was for this moment. He killed the American. He made the suit out of the American's power and body. He stole the power and took all of the spirits, all to prevent this alien invasion. I will be the savior of the entire world, he bellows. And what greater reward for my service than dominion over that which I have saved, and all who live on it? Triathlon turns away, flipping through the fight until he reaches the other Avengers. We got more trouble. Tremont, he's got to be stopped too. If he wins, the world's just as hosed as if Kang wins or the Pyramid. All three of them are the big bads. Cap grits his teeth and slugs another alien. Can't say I'm surprised. We'll deal with it the best we can. The rest of the heroes turn, realizing that Tremont has continued to grow, his power rippling through the aliens, and the heroes begin to hit him with everything that they've got. But he continues the attack, siphoning the energy from his brother's spirits, killing them. Now I sense the true prize here. It is the pyramid itself, suffused with the power of all of those who lost their lives fighting it. Those souls were taken by evil. I can wrest it from the darkness. I can become a god myself, and all I need is the last power to oppose the darkness. He fires a blast at Triathlon, who manages to flip out of the way, and he continues to avoid Tremont's blast until he's finally struck. But the blast merely frees the souls of 3D Man and his brother, trapped in the suit after the power was leached out of them. He continues to flip away, but as he rounds a corner, he is shocked to discover the alien champion, bonded with another fragment that had attempted to attack the pyramid. He is drawn to the fragment, reaching out his hand for it. No, you can't, Tremont shouts as he sees what Delroy is doing, but Delroy touches the fragment and is bathed in a green light and rises up as the light dims. The first shard. I feel its power. Feel it resonating with the power that we already carry. This is what we were meant to do, to bring the shards here, to unite them. This has always been my purpose, our purpose, he says with the voice of all three of them. Tremont looks at him with fear as Delroy turns, reaching out his hands and drawing the energy of the shards from the religious leader. And now with the power of everything, Delroy shoots a blast that hits the pyramid itself. The others can do little more than look and wonder. In the darkness of space, Triathlon and the darkness of the pyramid are now doing battle, but it doesn't last long. The power of the three fragments burn away the corruption of the darkness, and the pyramid becomes inert. It is done, Triathlon says as he returns to his friends. Cap nods, asking the hero if they can use the pyramid to return to Earth and fight Kang. But Vision interrupts them, explaining that he can once again receive transmissions from Earth. When we were caught up in that illusion chamber, it must have held us far longer than we assumed. We have been here for weeks, Captain. And in that time, Earth has surrendered to Kang. He tells the shocked faces of those around him. Earth, Wonder Man has been captured, brought to a prison colony outside of Los Angeles. And across the planet, Kang's forces have stopped what small resistances remained. Simon is pushed into the camp, a collar dampening his powers. "Simon!" Wanda shouts as she runs forward, embracing him. "I was taken into space. They shipped me down here weeks ago," she explains, and the two begin to work together, helping those in the camp as best as they can. With Wanda explaining that some of her hex powers still work, believing that the collars can't suppress them because they're magic. It's a few days later that some of the prisoners knock a guard from his hover disk, stealing it and flying over the wall. "All right, did you see that? Way to go, guys. Way to show them," Simon shouts, but Wanda shakes her head, explaining that it won't get them far. More guards show up, holding up their weapons against the heads of two innocents. "Attention prisoners, surrender immediately and no one will be punished for your actions but yourselves. Continue your attempt to flee, and these prisoners will die in your stead." The guards shout, but the prisoners continue to run and the two innocents are shot. It doesn't take long for the others to become captured and return to the camp. Wanda explains to Simon that it always doubles the number of those who try to escape, and she turns away as the rifles go off. That night, the two of them sit under the stars, talking about how shocking the world has become in the last month. "Things will get better. Kang will be defeated," Simon tells her, reminding her that the resistance is out there. She leans in close, kissing Wonder Man. They both pull away and she turns, and they talk about the relationship, how they both have seemingly moved on without even realizing it. "What we had, it's over. It's been over for a while, but we pretended," he tells her with a nod, and they both agree. Neither is mad about it, but they know that they'll remain friends, and they sit back down under the stars. "What's important right now is how we're going to get out of here," Simon tells her. He tells her that she could use her powers to remove his collar and that he could take off with her. She shakes her head, reminding him what the guards are due to the camp, but Simon has an idea. The next day, Simon rips off Wanda's collar, allowing her to use the full might of her magic to knock the guards away. Simon breaks through the wall, creating a hole for them to escape through, and they fight their way through the guards almost free. But the guards appear behind them with two prisoners, ordering them to stop. Wanda can't allow them to kill innocents for her and turns back, begging them to take her instead. But Wonder Man turns back, demanding the guards face him and him alone, and he fights valiantly. The guards overwhelm him and beat him down, and his beaten body is dragged before an image of Kang, who declares that because he had the honor to face his guards alone, only he would be executed. Wanda is chained, forced to watch as Simon is tied to a post, and the guards aim their weapons and open fire. When the energy dissipates, Simon is no more. Wanda cries in anguish, falling to her knees in the spot where Simon once stood, and the guards begin to gather around her. "Want me to clonk their heads together?" Simon whispers in her ear, making Wanda smile. "That won't be necessary, Simon, but it's nice to hear your voice," she tells him. It was last night that Simon had come up with the plan. A fake escape attempt would buy him the chance to be executed alone, and Wanda would use her powers to make sure that a new collar that was put on him wouldn't work, allowing him to use his powers to protect himself from the guards' weapons, and Wanda to make him invisible. But Wanda wouldn't leave the other prisoners. And now free, Simon escapes to find the remaining resistance and heroes of the world. Now far over in Siberia, Kang and Marcus watch the battle far below, with Kang smiling. "Look at it, Marcus. Their defense is shattered. Their lines are broken. There is nothing left for them to fight. It is poetry." Kang sighs, but the joy of the moment is destroyed for Kang as one of his servants' droids floats to him with dire news of trouble at the Imperial prison. "Strike fiercely, Avengers! Thou art almost through!" Thor shouts as the rest of the Avengers continue to hammer at the walls. The wall finally crumbles, revealing an imprisoned Janet Van Dyne. "Jan! That psycho actually trussed you up like a beast of burden!" he shouts as he races towards her. She asks about the other prisoners, but Hank hugs her, telling her that the rest of the resistance is freeing them, but she begins to argue with them. "Don't you see? I surrendered on behalf of the Avengers as a group. Kang only keeps the kid gloves on as long as the other side plays by his rules. If we break the surrender, he'll retaliate, murder entire cities!" She shouts at them, but Thor swings Mjolnir, opening a portal for them to escape. "We stand prepared to fight back against the Tyrant King," he says, motioning her through the portal. The heroes all step through and entering into the hidden fortress of the former Master of Earth, where the rest of the heroes have gathered to fight back against Kang. "How many will die if we fail again?" she asks, but the President of the United States steps out of the shadows, telling her that they have no choice. That if there is even the faintest bit of hope, they need to try and free the planet. And Janet nods. You're right, Mr. President. We'll strike back. We'll plan the strike for tomorrow. Tonight, I have some calls to make. Call in a few favors, she says. Meanwhile, on the dark side of the moon, the rest of the Avengers are still within the pyramid, with Triathlon still trying to learn how to use the ship to help them in their fight against Kang. Captain America urges him on, reminding him that they need to get home as quickly as possible. It takes some time, but Triathlon manages to figure out how to cloak and get the ship moving again. That night, the heroes take what time they can for themselves, talking with friends and loved ones, mentally prepared for the coming war the next day. And it's the following morning that Kang stands within his fortress on the eastern seaboard. He broadcasts a message to the entirety of his kingdom. People of North America, I speak to you now because your heroes have betrayed you. The Avengers have broken their surrender, violated their oaths, invaded Imperial possessions. They will be punished, and they will be allowed to surrender once more and be executed, but not until after 2 American cities have been destroyed as retribution for their treachery. And then every hour that passes without their surrender, another city will fall. The image of Kang appears over the cities of Denver and Atlanta, and it looks down. Denver, Atlanta, make your peace with your gods. Your heroes have brought this upon you, he declares as his hands begin to glow. But the forces are spread thin and around the world as more walls rise up, attacking Kang and his armies. Out of the oceans, the Atlanteans rise, attacking the land. In Siberia, the Presence and Starlight lead a new assault, using her powers to transform Kang's armies into their own. At his fortress, a wall explodes inward and Kang turns to his son. We shall withdraw to our base and make our displeasure known from there, he says, and the two of them board an escape craft and quickly fly away. Kang looks out the window, pondering how the Avengers could have possibly defeated the master of the world, gaining access to his technology. Marcus doesn't dare look at his father, remembering how he helped Carol Danvers pull that one off. I'm not in a position to guess, of course. You have often praised them as resourceful. Perhaps it's as simple as that, he says as he glances at his father. But back at their base, Janet is preparing the next stage of the assault. Okay, people, we have a slim chance, she says, explaining that Hank, Black Knight, and Stingray will stay in the base to use the Master's tech to continue to fight Kang's army, while the rest of them will head into space to assault Kang's base. But the base begins to shake and rumble as Kang is now opening fire. He appears as an image over the mountains, declaring that he can track their signals to get an idea of where they are hiding. He's firing blind! We've still got a shot! Janet shouts, and she begins to issue commands telling the others to get ready for their assault. But far overhead, Kang's attack is suddenly interrupted as his ship is shaking violently. He turns in shock. What in the eternal void? He snaps as he looks out the window to see the pyramid approaching them. Way to go, Triathlon! That lets him know that we're here. Captain America shouts as Triathlon fires again. Anger fills Kang as he steps out of his command post, ordering Marcus to prepare the hologram projector. There is no end to these interruptions! I'll deal with this personally! He snaps, entering into his chambers, putting on his hologram suit that allows him to fight as his projections. On board the pyramid, Cap turns to Triathlon. I've got an idea. Let me know if the pyramid can do this, he says. And Kang's image appears in the vastness of space, beginning to move forward, reaching out for the pyramid. But a hand is suddenly put on his massive shoulder. Now, you miserable, jacked up little Hitler. Let's end this, a massive Captain America says, as Kang turns to him in shock. The heroes of Earth have headed into space, readying for the final battle. Aboard the pyramid, Captain America takes a punch and staggers, but he is still getting used to fighting with a hollow projection. He's better than I remembered, Cap says as he spits out some blood, but he turns back, knocking Kang aside. Marcus is watching as his father is battling against Captain America, reporting to him how the battles below are going. But the ship is suddenly rocked as blasts from the Earth slam into Kang's ship, with the rest of the Avengers not far behind. The image of Cap punches Kang hard in the stomach. This is where it ends, Kang. Your murderous invasion, your domination of Earth. It's over, Kang. Over! He snarls, but Kang punches back, telling Cap that no matter what, the Avengers have lost. So fight to the end. Fight! And lose your idiotic pyramid, your Arctic base, and your lives. All of it! The Avengers continue to hammer the ship, trying desperately to get through its shields, while Cap continues to fight Kang. It's Iron Man who realizes that the shields are using a shifting energy structure, which means that they have to hit it all in one spot with everything that they've got. Give it too many variables to deal with, too many to adapt to, he shouts at them. Above them, Kang grabs Captain America by the throat. You see, Captain. You may be the finest warrior of the age, but Kang is a warrior of all ages! He hisses with glee, but Captain America refuses to quit. Suddenly, Kang is gone, and he's shaken free of the projector as his ship takes another hit. Alas, our shields may be holding, but the pounding we're taking is weakening them, shaking all of our base. He snaps as he pulls himself off the floor. Marcus moves to help his father, asking whether they should jump through time, rebuild their forces, and return moments after they left. But Kang waves him away. No, we'll fight the battle before us rather than resort to chrono guile. Time is our compass, Marcus, not our weapon. He reminds him that he is prepared for all of this, though he still doesn't know how the Avengers managed to beat the Master. Once again, Marcus doesn't even look at his father. I'm sure that it'll be irrelevant, sire. You will triumph over them anyway, he says finally, and Kang pauses for a moment before once again turning to his control. As long as I have what matters, my strength, my skill, the battle before me, as long as I have those and my son beside me, then it is all as it should be. Come, Marcus, let's show these fools how to wage the war. Aboard the Pyramid, Triathlon turns to Captain America, informing him that the souls that have been trapped in the dark ship are begging to be freed, though that would mean that they wouldn't have the power for the Pyramid any longer. Can we use their souls as a weapon against their will? He asks, and Captain America looks away for a moment, knowing that they shouldn't, but also knowing that they need the power. Tremont is shocked. Stop! You can't do this, you fools! Earth lies in the balance. You cannot scruple at anything to save it! He shouts at them when suddenly his eyes begin to glow and he rises out of his cage, telling them that he was absorbing more energy to escape. They're aliens, damn you, aliens! Who cares about their souls? He shouts and he explodes out of the pyramid, flying towards Kang's ship, declaring that he will do what needs to be done. A laser blast then hits him, and with his dying breath, he uses the last of his power to blast Kang's ship, destroying its shield. He did it! The shield's down! Everyone move! The front door's open! Iron Man shouts to his team as everyone speeds towards Kang's ship. The Avengers are within the ship within minutes, fighting against Kang's forces, using their energy blast to cut a path through it. Meanwhile, Carol is fighting her way through the ship. Warbird here, Wasp. I'm open. I can take it. She quickly finds herself at the ship's power core. The Scarlet Centurion stands in her way. What are you waiting for? Do it, Warbird! Jack shouts, and Carol nods, leaping into the power core, feeling the energy swirling around her as she is absorbing it. But it proves too much, and she begins to struggle, finally releasing it, allowing the energy to explode through the ship, ripping it apart as the Avengers continue their fight. We must go, Avengers. We must abandon the structure, lest we be consumed by its death throes. Vision shouts to his friends, and the heroes quickly move to escape the ship, while Kang moves through the destruction. Where is he? I can't abandon him, he's gotta go! Gotta take his place, he mutters, and he turns to find Marcus rushing towards him, begging his father to get to the escape pod. But Kang shakes his head. No, you go, I'll stay here, he says, and he tells Marcus that he is his heir, and that he must take his place as the ruler of the Imperium. I am not merely your father, but I am also your commander, and I am ordering you to escape, he says as he pushes his son into one of the pods and hits the controls. I have all a man truly needs. Farewell, Marcus. Bring credit to your father's name, he says as the pod blasts out of the ship. The ship continues to explode all around Kang as it plummets from the skies, falling towards the Earth. The ship crashes on the Earth, with the Avengers quickly traveling to its point of impact, and Captain America staring at the destruction. There were more deaths, more blood on our consciences than on his, he says as they land. The hatch explodes out of the ship and Kang staggers out, his armor torn, a sword at his hands. Well, come on! Come and take me if you can! Kang surrenders to no man. Captain America nods, hefting his shield and stepping forward. The others try to join him, but Thor stops them. This doth be Captain America's battle, he tells Warbird. She turns, arguing that they should just beat Kang and ignore honor. But Thor shakes his head. It'll be Captain America's battle, not due to the respect for the foe, but because Captain America will do all that is needed. Kang bellows with rage, leaping at Cap, slashing downward with his sword, meeting the hero's shield. Cap blocks several blows, twisting and throwing Kang over his shoulder, and he tosses the shield, knocking the villain's sword out of his hands, leaping in for a powerful kick. They trade blows back and forth, but anger fills Captain America as he thinks of all the death that Kang has caused, and he hits him across the face with the shield, following it up with another blow that cracks Kang's helmet. The man staggers, swaying on his feet. Well struck, Captain. You are truly worthy of this great... He stammers until finally dropping at Captain America's feet. The other Avengers join Cap, and with the Jack of Hearts asking if they've won. Cap shakes his head and looks at the destruction that Kang has caused. Look around, Jack. Nobody won here, he says with a heavy heart. A Quinjet arrives so that they can take Kang into custody, and as they fly over the country, the Avengers discuss the long process of rebuilding after the war. They finally arrive in New York, with Jack getting everyone's attention and pointing out the window, because below them, the people of New York have gathered in the streets, cheering for the heroes that have saved them and finally defeated the tyrant. All around the world, the people are being freed from Kang's prison colonies, cheering for the heroes that fought for and alongside them. The war has finally ended. Later, Kang is sitting quietly in a prison cell. He is the only prisoner within this facility, far beneath the surface of the earth, yet he is quiet, content. He built an empire and won great victories, and he is proud that his son will carry on in his stead. But a light appears as the wall is cut through next to him. Greetings, Father. Shall we go? Marcus asks as he steps through the hole in the wall. The warrior smiles at his father, explaining that they have trapped the entire prison within a null field that stops time between heartbeats. You should not have come, Marcus. I was content to stay here to allow the events to play out, Kang says, anger flashing in his eyes as he looks at his son. But Marcus tells his father that there is no need. The door is open for their escape. Kang stares for a moment before standing and leaving with his son. And back in the future, Kang stands on the deck of his home ship, once again donning his armor. You should not have rescued me, Marcus. I would have died, and my life would have been complete. My legend eternal. You could have become whatever you are to become. You are the best of them. You'd make your own legend, he says to his son, but Marcus still doesn't understand, as Kang finally sighs, leading his son to his quarters, finally ready to tell him the truth. Inside of Kang's private quarters, Marcus is shocked to find a long line of silvery coffins. It's a mausoleum, he gasps, looking down and is shocked to find that each coffin is filled with a body that looks like Marcus. Yes, conquering this earth was never really the true aim, my son. It was my gift to you, to my heir, the finale to my legend, the dawn of yours, as we triumphed over my greatest foes. I thought it would be glorious, because you were the best of them. He explains that Marcus was not his first son, nor his 10th, that each before him had failed Kang in some way. And then there was you, but you betrayed me, he snarls. Whirling on Marcus, he reveals that he knew that Marcus had helped Warbird and the Avengers defeat the Master. And still, I would have forgiven you if you had come to me, admitted your actions. I gave you chances, but you lied. Marcus tries to apologize to his father, but Kang steps forward. Marcus, what's done is done. All that remains is going forward, he says, putting his hand on his son's shoulders. I was content to die, to let you go on, to become your own man, your own ruler, your own legend. It wouldn't have mattered then. Many great men began by betraying his father, he says, drawing a knife from his boot. But now I am here. He sighs, slipping the blade into Marcus's ribs and stepping back. And Kang the Conqueror cannot tolerate a traitor in his camp, not if he is to go on, he says coldly. Marcus stares at his father in shock as he sinks to his knees, words trying to escape his lips. But he collapses to the floor, dead. Kang stares at the cold body of his son, knowing that he couldn't tolerate a traitor. And the computer chimes asking if Kang would like to activate the next version of Marcus. But Kang reaches out, taking Marcus's head into his lap, looking down at his still face. No, not yet, he whispers quietly. Not yet.
And that was the full story for Kang Dynasty by Kurt Busiek. This was the original plan for the MCU before many changes led to Avengers Doomsday. But what did you think of this story? And how do you think it would have done in the MCU? Let me know in the comments below. And like and subscribe to help the channel out. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Penny.